on? There's a little bit of a room echo here. I am coming to you from Elba, Italy, which is in the wine country and the northwestern quadrant of Italy. I'm here teaching at a music conference, and we happen to have a whiteboard right here. And I want to continue on with this basics of music theory video here. Hold on one second. My friend Jeffrey is here, and he's just turning the volume down on his iPhone here. Otherwise, it'll feed back. It's working though, Jeffrey, right? So I want to continue on with what I was talking about in the live stream from last week. By the way, there's a discount code for today's live stream, 20% off anything in my store, RB528. Is that the date today, Jeffrey? Is today the okay, hold on. He's turning his volume down. Today's 28th, right? Yes. RB528. Okay, so we're going to talk about chord construction. I talked about how chords work in keys last time and talked about the circle of fifths, how the modes relate, and how the Roman numerals relate. But I want to actually talk about how you actually construct chords, okay? You heard about things like root, thirds, and fifths, and this is, for most of you on here, for many of you, you know this music theory, but this is a refresher course for all the new subscribers that have come on. And for the people that come on, the What Makes This Song Great, because of the What Makes This Song Great videos, and I'm always talking about chords in there, but you may not even know what I'm talking about. So this is a refresher course for some of you. I'm going to talk about triads and seventh chords and extensions and how they're built, okay? We're going to use a C major scale, so I'm going to simply write out the notes of C major. You just follow the alphabet, G, A, B, okay? Now, these are the notes of the scale, and I'll number them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. When you hear somebody talking about the root, third, and fifth, let's say of a C major chord, what they're talking about the root would be this, the third would be this, and the fifth would be this. They happen to be the notes of the scale. This is just an easy way of thinking of it, okay? If I then stack these notes above C, that gives me a C major chord, okay? We remember from the last video that the 1 chord is always major, okay? The 2 chord is always minor, the 3 chord is minor. That's what these lowercase Roman numerals are. The 4 chord is major, 5 chord's major. Think about your blues, 1, 4, 5. If you're playing a blues, that's what they mean. The 6th chord is minor and the 7th chord is diminished, okay? Now, if I take the scale starting on E and just fill it in across like this, F, G, A, B, C, D, that gives me the third of each of these chords. This is going to be the third of D minor. This is going to be the third of E minor once I complete the chord, okay? Now I'm going to go from G and I'm going to go A, B, C, D, E, F, okay? Now I've completed all the chords, all the triads in the key of C major, okay? This is the roots of all the chords. These are the thirds and these are the fifths, okay? You guys can, I think, understand that. Now I'm going to fill in what the chords are. This is D minor, minus means minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished, okay? So these are the chords of C major. These are the triads. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished. So once again, if somebody says, oh, you're talking about the Nashville numbering, oh, it's a 4-1-6-5 progression. Well, what they mean is 4 chord F to the 1 chord C to the 6 chord A minor to the 5 chord G major, okay? Now, if you extend these chords out to the 7th, meaning we put an extra third on top, so the C, I put a B on the top of the C chord, that becomes a C major 7. And there's an order of 7th chords. Jeffrey, can everybody see on here? Everybody, it looks good, they can all hear me? Okay. So there's an order of seventh chords in a major key, and it goes like this. 1 is major 7, 2 is minor 7. I just add a 7 to the Roman numeral. 3 is minor 7. 4 is major 7. Put MAJ 7. 5 is just what we call dominant seventh, or just a straight seventh chord. 6 is minor 7th, and 7th is a minor 7 flat 5. They also call this a half diminished. So you'll see sometimes it'll be written like this. Jazz musicians do that. And it's very common in classical music to have a diminished with a slash through it, okay? So now I'm going to go from B and I'm going to fill in all the sevenths here. I'm just going to start from B and I'm just going to write the scale starting on B. B, C, D, E, F, G, A. There's my little matrix of all the chords. So here's how they spell them. So C major 7 is C, E, G, B. D minor 7 is D, F, A, C. E minor 7 is E, G, B, D. Don't just ignore those there. That I already spelled the chords there. So those are all the seventh chords. So if we were to break these down in a major key, the major triads are 1, 4, 5. The minor triads are 2, 3, 6, and the seventh is diminished. Well, the sevenths in a major key, follow me with this, are 1 and 4. Okay? So let me do it like this here. So 1 and 4 are major sevenths. 2, 3, and 6 are minor sevenths. 5 is actually the dominant 7. Dominant. So you call it a dominant. Can they see that, Jeffrey? Can they read that? Dominant 7. And this one is your minor 7 flat 5. This will account for progressions in jazz, for example. If you say a 2-5-1, 2-5-1 in jazz, people typically mean seventh chord. So it'd be D minor 7th. So these are going to be the seventh chords. I'll put C major 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7, just a straight G7, A minor 7, and this would be a B minor 7 flat 5. Okay, so these are all the seventh chords in the key of C, and this is how they're constructed. And I'll put seventh right here. So you have your root, your third, your fifth, your seventh. Root, third, fifth, seventh, root, third, fifth, seventh, and so on and so forth for a major key. Okay, so this will account for if you're in jazz and you're doing a 3-6-2-5 progression, and jazz players are typically talking about the 3 chord, E minor 7, 6 chord, A minor 7, although usually it's an A7. 2 chord is D minor 7, 5 chords G7 to 1, C major 7. You could do 3-6-2-5, 1-4. I mean, you could do any type of progression, but this is what people mean when they're talking about the chord construction of seventh chords, okay? Now, I want to just talk about extended chords real fast. I want to talk about sevenths, ninths, and what that means, okay? So we'll start with C major, and we'll talk about the permutations of a C major chord, all right? So this is cool, by the way. This is a magnetic eraser that I need to get. I need a professional whiteboard like this because this is unbelievably great. Look at this. I mean, come on. Is that ridiculous? Okay. So I'm going to build a C major triad. C, E, G. Okay, I'm going to put the seventh on it. B. So this is 1, 3, 5, 7. Okay, now, so this would be a C major seventh right here. If I change this B to a B flat, we call that just a C7. Now, the theoretical name for these, let me go back actually. This is for you theory nerds out there that actually know about this. But the correct name for a C major seventh chord is actually a C major major seventh. That's the proper name. A C dominant seventh is actually called a C major minor seventh chord. Okay, that's because it's a C major chord with a minor seventh interval on top. But for shorthand, we just call it a straight C7. because it has a flat 7 interval here. 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Okay? Now, other chords are derived from this. If I make this an E flat, flat the third, then you have a C minor 7 chord. Okay? C minor with a 7, a flat 7 on top. If I change this to B natural, then you have a C minor major 7, right? Because you have a major 7th interval from C to B. Okay, this is a little bit more complex, but not that complex. Okay, when you get in, if I go C, C, E flat, G flat, B flat, then I have a C minor 7, right? It's got the minor 7 there, flat 5. That's that half diminished chord. That's the 7th chord. When we were in the key of C, it was B minor 7 flat 5 was the 7th chord in that key. So these are how 7th chords are constructed. Now, if you just start building thirds on the top of this, go back to straight C major 7, right? If I put a third on top, so I'm just alternating letter names. C, then you have D, then you have E, then you have F, you have G, you have A, you have B, you have C, you have D, F, A. So these are the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. This is how these upper extensions work. When people are talking about these, this is what they're talking about, okay? This is all in the Beato book. If you go to my store right now, RB 528, you can get it for 20% off. It has the construction of all these chords. You can simply look them up where you don't have to memorize them. But if you want to know them, you have to just memorize the formulas. There's not that many formulas to memorize, okay? All the permutations of a C13 chord or any type of C major chord or C minor chord or C diminished chord, they have extensions on them, okay? You can have a C diminished major 7th chord, for example, okay? Typically, though, a C diminished major 7th chord would use these notes. C diminished triad, so C, E flat, G flat, with a B on there. So that would be 1 flat, 3 flat, 5 major 7. That's called the diminished major 7. C diminished major 7. This is really hip for jazz and for more modern music. You'd have chords like this. And when you get the Beato ear training method, it's going to have chords like this in there. And you're going to have an incredibly good ear. You can talk about augmented sevenths. If I make a G sharp here, that's C. Augmented is a plus major 7. That's 1, 3, sharp 5, major 7. I know that some of you right now are saying, I get this. I don't know why I get this, but this is really obvious. This makes sense. This is how chords are constructed, no matter how complex they are, when they're built in thirds. You can have chords built in fourths. They're called quartal chords. You can have chords built in fifths. They're called quintal chords, okay? But for what we call tertian harmony or third-based harmony, which is what you typically deal with rock music, with not all jazz. Jazz, you have modal jazz, you have jazz, 60s jazz, John Coltrane with McCoy Tyner playing piano that has a lot of modal or quartal voicings in the piano. But most music can be analyzed simply this way. If I were to make a C9th chord, just regular C9, that what people are talking about are a C9. So 1, 3, 5, flat 7, 9. These are the notes of a C9 chord, right? If you say a C13 chord, you don't need to have the 9 in there. If you have that, you just put an A on here, and that would give you the 13. That would be a C13 chord. You don't have to have all the extensions in there. You just have to have the 1. You don't even need to have the 5th here. I could take that out, and that would sound like a C13 chord, okay? Just like that. So Are there any questions? Now, I can't see the screen here, but Jeffrey can see the screen. And if there's any questions that have come up, Jeffrey, that might be of use that anybody wants answered.
Somebody wants to know the best way to memorize all this.
Great question. The best way to memorize this, I was actually asked this question in a talk I gave today in this room. A student from my friend Elliot, who's running the seminar here, one of his students asked, "How do you memorize this?" And I said, well, kind of like you just memorize anything else. You have to just memorize the formulas, okay? And when I say memorize the formulas, the easiest way to do it is to take that 1, 3, 5, 7 and know what you do to each individual chord. You start with triads, okay? And you memorize the first 4, which are the major, minor, diminished, augmented, okay? Memorize the formulas. C major is C, E, G, and the formula is 1, 3, 5, okay? C augmented, I usually put these two together. C augmented is C, E, G sharp. So it's 1, 3, I wrote it too close. Got my eraser right there. C, E, G sharp. So that would be 1, 3, sharp 5. Okay, this is C augmented, that's with a plus. C minor is C, E flat, G, 1, flat 3, 5. I'm gonna put a C with a minus, that means minor. And then C diminished, you relate augmented and major together and diminished and minor together. C, E flat, G flat is C diminished, which is 1, flat 3, flat 5. And that's a C with a circle. So this is how you memorize it. Like that. You just memorize the formulas. Okay? Written another way, like this. Writing these things out is really helpful. Major, 1, 3, 5. Augmented, AUG is augmented, 1, 3, sharp 5. Minor, 1, flat 3, 5. And diminished, 1, flat 3, flat 5. Okay? The reason I relate these two together is because these have the 1 and 3 are the same, and then the augmented uses the sharp 5. The minor, 1, flat 3, is the same as the diminished, but the diminished has the flat 5. When I taught my son Dylan when he was 4 years old, I taught him this first. And I just had to memorize these, but I had to memorize the actual notes. We went around the circle of fifths, because this is actually an important way to memorize these. You should never memorize things by half steps. You'll get that eventually, but you should always memorize things in fifths, because these are how things occur in chord progression. So your circle of fifths that we talked about last time, people were making fun of my oval circle that should have been. You memorize the keys: C, G, D, A, E, B, F sharp, or G flat. That's where it turns around to flats. D flat, A flat, E flat, B flat, F. Okay? These are the order of sharps and flats. This is the circle of fifths. 0 sharps or flats, 1 sharp, 2 sharps, 3 sharps, 4 sharps, 5 sharps, 6 sharps or 6 flats, 5 flats, 4 flats, 3 flats, 2 flats, 1 flat. Okay? We talked about this last week. If you go back to my Basics of Music Theory video with a whiteboard and watch that, I explain the circle of fifths and how that works together. So this is how you memorize it. So you'd memorize them around here, and you figure out, you say, okay, what's the 1, 4, 5 of the key of C? C, F, G. What's the 1, 4, 5 of the key of G? G, C, D. What's the 1, 4, 5 in the key of D? Okay, D, G, A, so on and so forth. So start with simple things like that, but that's typically how you memorize these things, by memorizing them and just going over them. Any other questions?
2 questions about the book, difference between version 1 and 2.
Yes, just write me. If you lost your file to re-download, just send me the original download link. And the difference between 1 and 2 is that I don't sell 1 anymore. 2 is 160 pages longer than 1, and it's typed out. 1 was handwritten. 2 has all new examples in it. I basically rewrote the entire book from scratch, and it's far, far better. So if you guys have, any of you that have book 1, just send me an email. You get book 2 for free. So I thought that most of the people have already done that, since it's been about a year since that happened. Maybe, I think it's over a year, actually. It's over a year. But if any of you still have book 1, write to me and you can get book 2. So that's going to conclude for today. Remember, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell. The discount code is RB528 for 20% off anything in my store. That's how I support my channel. If you want to support me, you can do that. Become a member of the Beato Club. And I have my Gary Burton interview is going to be coming out, which you're not going to want to miss. It's either tomorrow, probably the next day, not tomorrow. I'm just about done editing it. So that's going to be really great. If you don't know who Gary Burton is, he's one of the greatest vibes players of all time, one of the most famous. And I interviewed him 2 weeks ago in Florida. It's a really fascinating interview. Thank you so much for watching. Leave any questions in the comments below, and you guys are the best.